Soldiers on the streets of Ecuador as the country's president declares war on armed gangs running out of control. We start in Ecuador, where soldiers are deployed to the city streets as the president declares war on armed gangs running out of control. The unrest started on Sunday when the boss of one of the main drug trafficking gangs escaped from a maximum security prison. President Daniel Noboa has authorized the armed forces to neutralize 22 gangs that are listed as terrorist organizations after masked gunmen stormed a TV studio during a live broadcast. A 2-month state of emergency is now in force. Will Grant sent this report from the city of Guayaquil.
Viewers in Ecuador watched in disbelief as masked and armed gang members entered a state TV channel and held staff hostage, all of it televised live.
They shot one of our cameramen in the leg, broke the arm of another one. They were shooting bullets inside the studio. The police were called and came in minutes.
The gang was soon arrested and the hostages released, but the TV station ambush was just part of the descent into chaos. Panic as gunmen stormed Guayaquil University. Explosions around the country, schools and businesses shut down, and widespread rioting inside Ecuador's prisons. In response, President Daniel Noboa called a state of emergency and imposed a curfew. By decree, he designated 22 gangs terrorist organizations and ordered the military to, as he put it, neutralize them.
We are practically living in a state of war against terrorism. These are not organised crime groups, they are terrorists who are financed by drug trafficking, trafficking in people, organs and arms.
President Noboa says that Ecuador is now engaged in an internal armed conflict. But while this explosion of gang violence may have caught the nation off guard, in truth, the storm which has turned Ecuador from one of the safest nations in Latin America to one of the most violent has been brewing for years. Specifically, this man, Adolfo Macias Villamar, alias Fito, is part of the reason Ecuador finds itself on the brink of an internal war. He's the leader of a gang called Los Choneros and escaped his prison cell shortly before his transfer to a higher security wing. 2 prison guards have been arrested for allegedly helping him flee. The gangs are largely controlled from the prisons. Even behind bars, Macias ran his organisation without interference from the authorities.
People are scared. They're closing all the stores. There is no security. They're afraid gangsters will come and loot everything.
An iron fist on crime has been used here before, but it did little to break the gang's stranglehold on the Andean nation or slow its slide towards bloodshed. Will Grant, BBC News, Guayaquil.
Well, with me now is Domenica Avila Luna, who is a political analyst and researcher at King's College London. She's currently in the city of Cuenca, just southeast of Guayaquil. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme. Firstly, what is the mood where you are after this several days of violence?
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be here. Yes, well, I'm happy to say that today, after the declaration of the internal war conflict status and having the military on the street has helped a lot to increase the perception of calm in different cities around the country. This is not to say that there are not several events happening still, but we can notice that it has reduced massively from yesterday. Yesterday, as you were mentioning, a TV channel station was assaulted. And also there were a lot of explosions in different countries, a lot of police officers and also security guards inside the prisons were taken as hostages. And this is the situation that we're facing in the country. But it seems that having the military patrolling the streets and also because they have been empowered by the president in his executive order to target these criminal organizations as military targets themselves, has helped a lot. It's important to mention that today in several parts of the country, business have been shut down. So there is very few movement across. And that's likely why we are also seeing a decrease in the number of incidents reported. But we will see if this calm is able to last longer. Yesterday was a very scary day for all the
Sorry to jump in, but you mentioned President Noboa. It is a big test for him, isn't it? Because he only took office less than 2 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's important to mention that his mandate is to be for only a year and a half. He won an extraordinary election, and we have again presidential elections in 2025. And he's been very clear that he wants to run for office again. So people will judge him with their votes on whether he's able to manage or not this crisis. And this has been certainly the biggest one that we face in the country, even though we have been facing a lot of security riots and problems with violence in the last 3 years.
How has this gang leader, Fito, how has he gained such power?
Well, he is the leader of one of the biggest organizations, Los Choneros, as it was mentioned before. The thing is that Ecuador is the country that has really weak institutions. So that has led him to become embedded not only when it comes to the business of drug trafficking, but also into the institutions, judiciary institutions, into the political elites, into the economics behind the country as well. So that has helped him gain a lot of power. And it's also important to mention that because of the pandemic and because of the bad governance we've had in the last years, these institutions have been constantly weakening, and he has taken advantage from that. But all the problems that are happening in the country is not only because of this specific group, but also there are other 21 criminal organizations that are basically fighting for the territory. Ecuador is quite a strategic place because of its geographical location. It facilitates a lot sending drugs to the US or to Europe and other places where there are high demand. And therefore, a lot of groups are fighting to control not only the prisons, but also the different channels of distribution in the country and outside of it.
Domenica, thank you so much for joining us from the city of Cuenca.